Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a 2001 2500HD Chevy pickup truck crew cab, and the symptoms that it's exhibiting are whenever I hit the brake or the gas, I get a clunk. You can't really hear it or anything, but you can definitely feel it through the pedal. It's really annoying. It's been going on for a while now. My problem is that I've kind of known all along what the problem was, but it's actually an issue with the pressed bearing that's on a shaft. So I'm going to take care of that problem today. I picked up a new tool. So I'll show you how this is going to get done, and then we'll go from there. So here's the new part, right? Shaft comes in from the back of the vehicle, goes through here, goes up to the transaxle. So we are going to replace this device, and as you can see, it's a nice machined surface on here, and that's the problem. It is actually pressed. So let's take a walk out to the truck, and I'll kind of show you what I've already done this morning. I did lift up the back of the truck just to give myself just a little bit more room. Chop the front wheels too, right? So as soon as the back comes up off the ground, there's no brakes holding the truck still, so it has to be chopped. So let me get on my creeper here and I'll show you what I have done. The drive shaft is what they call the propeller shaft in the technical manual. Got a little rain going on here. The drive shaft is a balanced item, and you have to, when you disassemble it, has to be put back together in exactly the same order. So what they've do is directed me to put witness marks on it, and I'll show you where I've done it. Crawl up underneath here. It's always a challenge when you're on your back. So where the propeller shaft meets the yoke on the differential, I put two white marks, just took some spray paint and put it into a disposable plate and a little brush, and I got 1, 2, 1, 2, so I know how that's going to go. And then coming through here, looking at the shaft, here's the bearing that actually has the problem, and you can see we got all this going on, right? So that thing is gone, and there's a rubber material that surrounds the bearing, and that's actually what's failed. I don't think the bearing itself has a problem. Moving on to the front, you can see I've got one witness mark here and here, so I know my orientation up front. And then the book has directed me to take a flat screwdriver and remove this clamp. This clamp was right here, and I did that gently because you can't just run down to the store and buy one of these things. You notice that it's really thin. A lot of snake clamps are much wider than that, so I'm going to try and preserve that, and it sort of suggests that it can be done. So I'm going to try and keep this all from getting all bent up and gnarly. And if you slide it back, you can see where the shaft goes into the bearing, right? And the next order of business is to remove the caps from the U-joint, and I just started to do that, and then my cameraman joined me, so these are all loosened up yet, so I'm going to pull those off and then move on to the next step. Caps from the end piece here, and they've been taken off, but everything's all fused together. It's old, it's never been taken apart before. The truck has 130,000 miles on it, so this is all kind of fused together. So what I've done is taken some WD-40 penetrating oil, I've squirted it all down, and the book, and as well as I know myself, that you don't want to beat on these tabs, right? You don't really want to do that, and they say, oh well, don't use a pry bar and all that, and I totally agree with that. I'm going to go old school here, and what we used to do to get a U-joint off was that we would hit the drive shaft right on this weld here, right? And what I'm going to do is going to give that a whack with a hammer and see if that loosens things up. I'm hoping, so here goes. Back up a little bit. Yeah, broke loose. There it is. Alright, so cool. So all it does is really just slides right off. I mean, just like butter, right? I mean, no problem whatsoever. So that's why I got to undo the boot on the clamp on the boot in order to release that. So now it looks like it's a matter of undoing the bearing, and I got to go up front to see what is connecting me. Oh, that's going to all slide out as well. So once the bearing is done, and there are two bolts that I have easy access to up here, so then I can pull all that out, and it looks like a pretty straightforward affair. I'm pretty pleased so far, so back to it. Okay, center bearing has been loosened up. We're just about there. Just a few more cranks, and I think this thing will be out. You probably can't see it on camera, but you're going to need some glasses here because I've just got all kinds of junk raining down on me. So once this nut comes off of this bolt, then we are going to take and slide this whole apparatus kind of back and out of the way. A few more cranks. It's possible oil may come out of that transaxle, but I'm not sure. Again, coming out just like butter, right? I mean, no problem. Okay, so that's where we wanted to get to. Now we'll head over to the press and we'll show you my new tool. Okay, as all projects do, this one had a snag. What happened was that I had intended to use my brand new press that I bought for this job, and it will not work. What I reasoned through was that I could get the bearing off, but I could not get the bearing back on because I would have to invert this, and that just wasn't going to work for a number of reasons. So if you think you're going to buy this press to do this work, that's not going to work for you. I ended up over at a machine shop that I've used since I was a teenager, and he did it for me for 50 bucks, and we got to talking, and he races cars and puts engines together, and he's got all this stuff. I mean, it was awesome, right? I mean, I just love going in those places. So he put the new bearing on, so let's just take a look at it here for a second. So here's the old one, bearing is gone. He's back at his shop. Here's the new one, right? We got that one installed, and it looks like it's custom made, and you can't, for 50 bucks, you can't argue, right? So what I'm going to do is that when I pull this together, this is just a spline gear. It is painted so it doesn't rust together, and then it won't allow you to take it apart, right? I'll hit it with a little bit of grease here, and I mean just a little bit, right? Just to keep it from seizing up. Same for this side. This has got the splines going down this end, right? And I'll just hit it with a little bit of grease so that it keeps it from seizing up, so that if it ever needs to be taken apart again, it's not going to be a problem. So, hey, sometimes things just don't go the way you expect them to go. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reverse the process that I've already done for you, and if I run into any challenges, I'll go ahead and I'll shoot that video. But I think I'm just going to reverse this, right? Taking it apart and put it together is all the same order, just in reverse. And if I have an update, I'll go ahead and add it. Thanks for watching. So I noticed before we had taken it all apart, and I gave the whole shaft a shake, right? And obviously the bearing had a problem. I also, just gave it a twist back and forth, so I see some play here, right? And I thought now's a good time to test it when I have two individual pieces, because then I can understand whether I have a problem in the differential or possibly in the transfer case where this slack is actually coming from. So I have a little bit here, right? I mean, it's this thunking problem that I want to get rid of, and I think the bearing will help, but I'm not sure. So then, without this back section attached, if I just take this and I gave this a shake, this has its own set of play, and it's actually quite a bit more than, say, like the transfer case has. So I think that'll give me maybe some direction to go if I put this together and I've still got this thunking, right, that I might address it in some manner. I'm not exactly sure yet, but I wanted to isolate these two pieces to figure out which one was actually causing the problem. Go. Okay, so I have learned a valuable lesson here. What we determined was that when I went to reassemble this thing, I had all kinds of problems. I could not get the spline gear to line up and actually go onto I could not get these pieces to match, right? What we learned was, in looking up inside this, there's one tooth that's different. It's actually double wide rather than single, like these all are, right? So it has to match up to a particular keyway on the spline gear. Once that happens, it's just a hand deal, right? It goes right together. So you have to have those lined up in order for it to work. All right, we just took it for a test drive. Everything seemed to be great. I've resolved the problem of whether or not that bearing causes the clunk. It definitely did. The clunk is completely gone. We drove it around for probably 3 miles or so, so it's working perfectly. I'm really happy with it. I think getting those splines lined up between those two drive shafts, that was crucial. And I'm a little embarrassed about it, but it does happen, and we got it worked out in the end, and the job is done. Thanks for watching.